Crowhill here. Today we review an ale and discuss surveillance. Hello and welcome to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Good evening, Pigweed.
Good evening, Crowhill.
So, do you have anything to hide?
Do I have anything to hide?
Yeah. Do you have anything to hide?
How about this? None of your damn business.
Well, I mean, you don't need to get upset about it. I'm just wondering, like, just in general, do you have anything to hide?
Isn't a man allowed to just have his own privacy and his own private thoughts and behaviors without being interrogated on live TV?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, of course you do. I'm just wondering, like, a yes/no question. Do you have anything to hide?
It's more than a yes/no question, my friend. This is personal. This is constitutional.
Oh, okay, all right. You're getting too upset. I think we need to drink a beer.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what we have here is, and this is what you were fearing here, the fear.
Yes. Well, that's what it is. So this fear in the room.
Yeah, it's just surveillance, the idea of being questioned about everything. An imperial pumpkin ale, and it is just shortly after Halloween.
But pumpkin season.
Yeah, it is pumpkin season. And you know, they always tell you to cook the pumpkin seeds. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Yeah. I love pumpkin seeds when they get rid of the shell, but when you cook them in the shell, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I like that. I've never been able to get that heavy salt crust on them. But I have a new air fryer. Maybe I give.
Okay,
maybe
yeah, there you go.
Shot this year.
So the Fear Imperial Pumpkin Ale, 9%.
Yeah,
and
I don't really like pumpkin ales, but I have to do it just because I'm one of those guys. I just get in with the seasons, and I figure I have to do it. And I thought.
You probably have the pumpkin spice latte for breakfast.
Yes, I will do that. Yes, when I go to Royal Farms, I get my coffee. There's this stupid pumpkin flavored creamer. Yeah, I'll use it. Mm-hmm. And this one here, so I just thought it's imperial. Maybe the extra booziness and the extra bitterness will
mask some of that.
Will help the pumpkin go down.
It does a little bit. It's got a bit of. There's a funny kind of a bitterness that you get from spices, from cinnamon. And those kind of spices, you know, that kind of, I don't know, almost a drying out kind of a feeling.
Yes, it tastes. It's more of a general holiday spice than it is a straight up pumpkin.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
which I'm okay with.
I would agree, and it has a pleasant flavor. You can definitely tell there's some spice going on in the background there.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have that overwhelming pumpkin latte spice, kind of thing. So, all right, okay, well done. I mean, these guys are good. Flying Dog. I've never loved their art, but I think I love their beer. They do a good job.
Love this art. This is Ralph Steadman.
Okay.
And he did all of the art for Hunter S. Thompson's books and such.
Oh, yeah?
For Hunter S. Thompson killed himself.
Right.
Over Trump, I think. But yeah, it is kind of weird. But I enjoy it.
Okay.
So
there we go. All right. So the question here is, how do we survive in an environment where everything that we say is being recorded all the time? Like, for example, if I were just to accidentally say about, hey, Google, what do you think about something or other? Then, my phone.
Sometimes I think about other languages. There are so many beautiful ways to describe even the simple.
That's just sitting in my pocket there.
Great. And so always listening.
It's always listening to me. And same with Siri and Alexa and all that kind of stuff.
Now, what if a woman is a victim of domestic abuse in her kitchen, and Siri calls the cops and comes in and saves her life?
Wow.
Now, are you still mad at Siri?
Wow.
For snooping all the time?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question.
Well, that's how we get this. This is the question.
That is how we get it. You're right, because
it's where is the balance between safety and privacy?
That's right. Yeah, and that's a great way to frame it, because the thing is, you want to say that people have a right to privacy, and you want to say the government doesn't have a right to come into your house and search for illicit drugs or something like that. But why don't they? I mean, if you have illicit drugs, then maybe they should be coming in and taking those things and hauling you into jail. But
speaking of not having anything to hide,
yes,
then why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Why couldn't the police just say, we're here just doing a routine check.
Exactly.
You don't have anything to hide, do you?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, no. Thank you very much, sir. Sit over there and shut your mouth while I have a quick look around.
Yes, when I go out on the bay, back when I had a boat, every year the Coast Guard would come up and say, "Where's your fire extinguisher? Where's your whistle? Where's your horn?
Hey,
Where's
in the interest of public safety?"
Yeah,
that's all we're
they're
doing
gonna
here.
show me your life preservers, all that kind of stuff.
This is the founding fathers were worried about it, and we're worried about it now. Let's before we get to the new phase of Siri and the NSA surveillance. Before we get to electronic data,
right?
So we've obviously been concerned about this matter from the very beginning.
We fought a war partially over it. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about that, and then we'll talk about how much worse, how much more serious the concern is post data.
Yes.
Because I was watching the Get Gotti show, and so the FBI has to make their case to a judge that they think that John Gotti is up to no good, and they say, and so what we would like to do is tap his phone.
Right.
So they have to sneak in, tap the phone. Now they're sitting in a van with headphones, but the parameters are really weird. Like, you can only listen for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And if you don't hear any illegal activity, you have to turn it off.
Okay.
And wait, whatever. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but, after 30 minutes, you can turn it back on for another 10 minutes or something like that. But at any rate, the idea is you can't just say, I think he's a bad guy, and they go, okay, you can listen to anything they say all the time forever.
Right. And what's the reason for that? Because, like, why does he have a right to be able to have conversations that the police can't listen in on?
Yeah.
And so,
because he's still a private citizen who has not been charged with anything.
Right. So it's the question of you're innocent before guilt. There's a presumption of innocence.
The presumption of innocence.
And if the police can go around snooping on you, it's basically a presumption of guilt. But let's think about how that could be abused. So the John Gotti, they're trying to frame him on X, Y, or Z. And they go in and they start snooping around, and they find out, let's say that they find out he's not committing the crime that they think he's doing, but they find out something else about him that they could use against him, with his wife or, with his church or something like that,
Yeah.
So they're...
But I think, right. But that will be defined in this surveillance warrant. Mm-hmm. But you can't unsee it. You can't unknow it.
Yeah. But I guess the question is, what was it that the Founding Fathers were concerned about? How was this being abused where the government was going in and rifling through people's papers and finding things out about them?
Yeah.
And then, they didn't have a specific crime. They didn't have a warrant. They didn't have something specific they were looking for. They just wanted to find out, what do we know about you? And what kind of trouble can we cause for you?
Search and seizure is right up there. What is it, number 4?
Yeah. Right. And I guess the idea was that you just didn't want people going on fishing expeditions trying to find out anything we can find. Because everybody has got something in their life that they don't want somebody else to know.
What are you trying
to say? There's something you don't want somebody to know about.
Yeah.
And you're giving the government the power to go in and find those things and then use it against you.
Yes. The old... head of the secret police for Stalin.
Right. Sure. You show me the man and I'll find the crime.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you pick anybody and you say, I'm going to go and I'm going to rifle through your emails and your telephone and your, what you have in your underwear drawer and everything else, and I'm going to find something that I can portray in a negative light, and I'm going to use that against you, and I'm going to bribe you, and I'm going to say, if you don't do such and such, then...
So the Founding Fathers saw this coming, and they said, this is not the kind of country we want to build.
Right.
So
why not? I mean, one reason would be that people should be left alone. But I think another part of the reason is it breeds an atmosphere of suspicion.
Exactly. You create a terror state.
Yeah.
And also you erode the cohesion that you're trying to build. That people should be inclined to think the best of their neighbors.
Yes.
And assume the best. And we have to have a government that does that too.
Yeah, and in a way, so I'm going to make this one explicit. When I was
Not about me, is it?
No.
All right.
When I was in elementary school, I learned this poem written by a black man living in the Jim Crow South, and it went like this: "All them white folks dress so fine, their assholes smell just like mine."
Okay.
And what I think is interesting about that poem is everybody has got something that they're covering up. Maybe it's the smell of their asshole, right? But everybody has got something that they're trying to put on a politer face. That's what society is about. We wash, we brush our hair, we try to be polite.
Well, maybe not on Sunday when you're not leaving the house,
right?
But when you're dealing with your fellow man, your neighbors, and all, yes, you should.
So sort of this
you should stop wearing pajama pants and Crocs at the grocery store at church.
Yes.
It's another topic.
That is another topic. But I think this is, like, part of civilization is that we are these rough, messed up people who are trying to deal politely with our neighbors and with everybody else. And sure, there might be things in our life that we don't want to come out, but, that's just the way it is for everybody.
That's the way it is. And we have to, there has to be those limits. But the more fearful we get, the more we're inclined to trade freedom for safety. Now, there's the Benjamin Franklin quote is often misunderstood or misquoted as being something more like, if you're willing to trade privacy for
liberty for safety.
Liberty for safety, you don't deserve either.
Right.
Well, having laws deprives
you of some liberty.
Of some liberty, right? So that's why the actual quote is better.
Okay.
It's those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety.
Right.
And that's
so it's essential liberty. It's not okay, I have a right to drive on the left side of the road.
Exactly. Right. The liberty to steal from your neighbor is not considered an essential liberty.
That's right.
And
or the liberty to burn leaves in my backyard, or whatever it is. That's not an essential liberty.
All laws are a restriction of your liberty.
Yes.
So this doesn't mean that any time that there's a law, but what he's saying is, giving up something big to save something small.
Right.
But you can play that either way. Are we ready to get? Are we up to the Patriot Act yet?
Well, so I guess I want to talk about one or two bigger issues first. Does surveillance necessarily involve lying to the person being surveilled?
Well, if I'm thinking about the FBI with headphones and binoculars. They're in an apartment that they rented across the street. Not really, because I don't know, a lot of these mob guys would walk along the side of the truck and just tap on it.
Hey,
I know it's you. And so there's all this little cat and mouse. So they right? They know. So not really. I mean, again, you've only in the sense that
you're
always trying to squeeze. You're always trying to, get somebody to break their oath.
Yeah, but you're snooping. Like if I'm sneaking into someplace and looking at somebody's papers, in a sense, that's, I don't know, there's something underhanded about it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, right. And then I guess the other kind of bigger picture question, we've talked about this a touch, is what are the negatives and possibly positives of surveillance? There's kind of an attitude of fear that people
on the downside.
Yeah. And then are there any positives to the notion of surveillance? Like, let's say you live in China and you know that there are cameras everywhere
Yeah.
watching your every move. Now, obviously, that's going to create a more polite society and a more law-abiding society,
Yeah.
right? Because you know that if you do anything wrong, they've got you on camera and they're going to get you. So there is that positive side to surveillance, which is it's going to get you to obey to some
Yeah.
extent.
Also, I think it's positive in the sense that you're not arresting somebody on suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
You're surveilling them under suspicion, and perhaps you're gonna be like, hey, he's not up to what I thought he was up to, so let's move on. Or guess what? Now we really have the goods, and
Right.
now we can go after the guy on something more than a mere suspicion.
Right.
So that it would be part of building a proper case.
We thought he was dealing drugs, but it turns out that he's running a prostitution ring or something.
Now you have to get a different warrant, but at any rate.
Well, not in China, probably. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the modern problem and what we're running into today.
All right, so we're not full blown to what's the Patriot Act 2000. We're right after
It was it was after 9/11.
I don't know, which is what 2001.
Yeah.
And 2001, and I still had a modem. Maybe everybody did.
Yeah, I can't remember.
2001,
Yeah, I
right?
can't remember.
So yes, the transmission of data was a thing, but not like it is now.
No, not at
Right.
all.
So, boom, sucker punch.
And all of a sudden, we're concerned about terrorists under every. I mean,
It
so
could be.
the terrorists
Could be
stayed in a
anywhere.
hotel in my town. The
yeah.
ones who
Yeah,
hijacked
I mean,
the plane.
they took flight classes in Florida,
Right.
and they
And there's the
they were
question.
here.
There's the question of there might be these sleeper cells, and there might be all these terrorists just living among us who could be doing it. There might be lizard people living among us for all we know.
Yes,
And
so they say we need to expand our tools.
yeah, to find
and
these lizard people
so that this doesn't happen again.
Right.
Hello, thank you very much. Sign me up, 100%. Right? The average,
at a time
the
when
average
everybody's afraid.
patriotic person is going, well, yeah, and then couple that with Homeland Security.
Yes.
Like, we need another $1 billion agency to help coordinate between the various agencies
Right.
that are not properly communicating with
Because
each other.
they obviously didn't do their job this time. So
Right, you're like, all right, I guess we need more of that. And
something that didn't work before, we need more of it.
and all these flag waving yahoos, including me, was of course.
Yeah.
And then if that's what it takes, gosh darn it,
Yeah.
then let's do this.
Right.
And the people who were like, whose mind has always been on this government overreach. We're like, are you sure you don't want to do that? Oh, I see, Osama bin Laden lover.
Yeah. So what happens is if it's your guy in the White House who's doing the checking, you're like, oh, he's only going to check on the bad guys.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh no, now the other guy has power. He's going to be, and that's a big part of the problem. And a lot of people don't think enough about this is you grant the government some power and then you say, okay, do you want the other side, the other
Remember,
party?
you're not always going to be in power.
Yeah. So you're a George Bush guy, and you say, okay, I trust George Bush. I don't know why you would, but I trust George Bush to hold this power. I don't trust Barack Obama to hold this power. I trust, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the kind of thing you run into where people say, oh, Obama, he's a nice guy. He would never do anything wrong. But Trump, you can't give Trump that power.
Okay.
Well, no, it doesn't work that way.
The government is not a person,
Yes.
and it's going to be there for a long time. And I'm starting to wonder if the people who had their suspicions about the powers granted in the Patriot Act, and specifically did FISA come along with the Patriot Act?
I
The
think
Foreign
so.
Intelligence Surveillance Act.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
I think it is too. And, of course, normal.
And that was abused. And the thing is, all power is going to be abused. So when you give somebody some power, you're really giving them more power than you think you're giving them.
Yes. Now, again, before we're talking about FBI agents in a van with binoculars, trying to listen to somebody's tapped wire phone.
Right.
Well, once all communication
Everything is going through the internet.
is going
Right.
through the internet, and it can all be captured if you got enough data storage, which we didn't at the time,
Yeah.
and we didn't have 5G. So, there wasn't that big of a concern about the mass collection of data
Right.
until it was.
Yeah. So now everything that you've typed into Google search is available for the government to look at. And it's out there. It's being stored on a server somewhere. And if the government wants it, then they can get it. And so this also gets us into the Edward Snowden thing, where he discovered that even though the Homeland Security and Patriot Act and all that gave the government all kinds of additional powers, the government went way beyond those powers
Yes.
and started doing things that they weren't allowed to do, like spying on American citizens. And Snowden discovered this kind of stuff and wanted to disclose it.
I just don't know how. I just don't know what was going on in his mind. He just seems like a regular Maryland boy who got a sweet job as a contractor. He wasn't even working for the NASA, NSA, or the CIA.
Yeah.
But he did work for both of them as a private contractor, living in Hawaii with a great girlfriend, traveling the world with a great job. And he came across these programs, these meta searches.
Right.
Well, what happened was he actually was doing research. He was asked to give a talk about China's data collection program. And he's as he's looking into it and seeing what they can do and how much data that they can aggregate, he was like, could we do that? And then as he's looking around, and again, he's not that high level, but he's high enough that he knows what programs are available,
Right.
or being implemented. He's like, that's exactly what we're doing.
Not only can we, but we are.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. And so this metadata collection is not, it's not collecting your email and your voice, your calls,
Yeah.
but who you're talking to.
Yes.
So who you're sending and receiving emails
that's-
from.
That was what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
At this point, I just assume the government is collecting everything everywhere. But anyway, yeah. And here's the thing: Snowden disclosed that the government was doing things that several high-level officials swore under oath before Congress that we weren't doing, and none of those guys are in jail, which is a crime.
Yeah, so here's a story. If this is from 2020, it says this was 2013 that Snowden went
Right.
public. It says 7 years after former NSA contractor Edward Snowden blew the whistle, blah 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 blah. An appeals court has found the program was unlawful, and that the U.S. intelligence leaders who were publicly defending it were not telling the truth.
And how many of those are in jail?
Well, of course,
None of them.
We'll never know who
Yeah.
those. But yes, those people are
But
off with some
there
other
were
jobs.
some high-level people who straightforwardly lied to Congress about this,
Yeah,
and I don't understand why they're not in jail.
I don't either. So so Snowden, like I said, he's not some megalomaniac who wants to go down in history as the guy who blew open who turned on America. He was a patriot, great family life, great girlfriend, and knowing that when he downloaded that and snuck it out of the building, he may never come back to the United
His life
States.
was going to change, and he might go to jail. That's
He
right.
might go, right. If he doesn't go to jail forever, it's possible that he'll never be allowed back into the country again.
Which is the truth. He's living in Russia.
He's
right
living
now.
in Russia. And so I'm reading about this. I'm like, yeah, but he's still living in Russia. He's been given the Russian citizenship. And he has married with 2 kids. And I'm like, oh, that poor gal back home. No, it's her.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from his girlfriend from Maryland.
Okay.
Went over there, and
Wow.
now they're living together, raising their 2 kids.
Well, good for
and
them.
He would love the idea of coming back.
Good for them.
But he...
Now, obviously, there are things to criticize about this. Whenever you leak confidential information, you risk putting people's lives in danger.
Right.
So I mean, there's
My
a reason why
understanding-
certain things are secret.
Yes, and my understanding is that he exposed the nature of the program without exposing any individuals, unlike the Manning WikiLeaks, which did. So what their argument is about the damage that he did was it. Of course they found it useful, right? This is what the argument is. Just because you can. Well, the argument isn't just because you derive some benefit from violating the rights of every American citizen.
Right.
Oh yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have caught that guy over there. How you like that?
Right. Yeah.
So they said it impeded their efforts to surveil certain people. And yes, who knows? Maybe some bad guys got loose or whatever. But yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So what if it would probably make the world safer slightly if the police could just walk around every neighborhood and open up everybody's trunk and see what they've got in the trunk.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people are going to have guns and some, right? So, and some people are going to have drugs. So that would make the world a safer place. So they would go and they'd find, hey, look, we found this guy who has these guns and these drugs and whatnot. And we arrested him. Isn't that great? But that doesn't justify the violation of privacy and the violation of the law.
Which is why those times when you find it outrageous that some evil guy got off on a technicality, it's like you know what, those
technicalities are there for a reason.
They're there for a reason,
Yeah.
and it's to safeguard everybody. And because the police screwed up and they didn't have the proper paperwork, they didn't enter the door in the proper way, or they didn't interview him in the proper way.
Yeah.
That's to safeguard all of us, and I'm sorry that this guy, I agree, that son of a gun should still be in jail.
Right.
But,
Yeah, and so let's think of it for a minute about why that is. Because if you don't have those kinds of things in place, then what you have is cops planting evidence. You have things like, they're gonna trick you into a confession. They're gonna find an innocent man. And okay, now, from a sort of a abstract point of view, people are saying, oh, the government has no reason to persecute. No, the government doesn't. But Joe, who's the head of police in this town, is mad at this guy because he's been dating his wife or his ex-wife or something like that. And he wants to find something against this guy.
Joe, he's the sheriff, which is a political office. But what he really wants to do is be the council representative.
Exactly.
When he's
So
done
he
with
wants to get some good
and
scalps so that he can say, look, I'm hard on crime and look. Yeah.
Yeah, you have such confidence in the government doing everything just for the good that you're going to turn over all information. So this is section 702 of FISA.
Okay.
Section 702 allows government agencies to collect messages of foreigners overseas, including when they communicate with U.S. citizens. The program permits intelligence agencies and the FBI to search the archive of intercepted messages using Americans' names, phone numbers given, even though the information was gathered without a warrant. So all you have to do, speaking of Russia, is
talk to somebody overseas.
Yes, you're at some diplomatic party, and this other guy, is a known spy, and we saw Jim talking at a party with so and so. So we're going to
we're going to investigate Jim.
We're going to investigate the foreigner.
Yeah.
Who happens to be talking to Jim, and now you can talk to anybody else who's ever talked to Jim, all the way down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what they have done, I will say that there's some progress has been made, that the number of searches of this kind, these warrantless surveillance program, has plunged 94%, and this is just this last year, from 3.4 million to 204,000 in the 12-month period.
Well, you know why? Because the 3.4 million were all to try to find something on Trump.
Exactly. They're 303 million searches for Trump. But so now that's progress in its sense.
I
now,
suppose.
I don't know if that was tied
maybe there's been
to
some reform. I don't know. That'd be lovely.
Snowden, but initially it was like
actually probably they found some better method and they're using that instead. And they don't need this one anymore.
Yeah, right. So they said it was required. It was required for the government to minimize the sharing, use, and retention of incidentally acquired information. So
Okay.
I'm pursuing that guy who's a foreign agent.
Yeah.
I just happened to stumble across that guy, and I need to minimize
Right.
the share. Right. So it's the case of what's the term where you're like, well, the non-falsifiable. Right. It's like, well, yeah, we gathered 10 million pieces of information. We could have gathered 100 million, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So we minimized it. Now you're within the parameters.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to go back to this point we were talking about earlier, that people want to say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then you shouldn't be afraid. But what people don't realize is that the people who are running these programs, the people who are doing this surveillance, the people who are gathering this information are people who have political biases, they have their own agendas, they have things that they are upset about. I saw a story not too long ago about some guy who had access to government data, who was using it to dig up dirt on his ex-wife to use in their divorce proceedings.
Right.
So it's not as if there's this benevolent thing called the government that sits around and does wonderful stuff.
Right.
No,
Then,
there are just a bunch of people who work for the government who have their own evil motives, and sometimes evil motives, sometimes
And
good
like you're
motives.
saying, the same people aren't always in charge. So yes, I do trust the sheriff's department to gather this, because this is a trustworthy dude. What about 10 years from now when that information is still sitting around and somebody you've never heard of is
Now it's the
in
sheriff
charge?
of Nottingham.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you have to think about, when you're thinking about giving power to the government, you have to think about the person wielding that power being someone who hates you and who has completely different values from you, completely different political positions from you. So do you want to give that power to your enemy? And it's not that you want to think the government is my enemy. That's not the point. The point is, at some point, the person wielding that authority and that power is going to be somebody you really don't want wielding that.
Yes, you have no idea who that person is going to be.
Right.
What did I thought I had something here about when they were talking to Snowden fairly recently. So this is the 10th year anniversary of the release. He's like, the things that I was concerned about 10 years ago
Or nothing.
are nothing.
Right. I wonder if Edward Snowden has a cell phone.
Yeah.
He probably
Why
doesn't.
would he? Yeah.
He probably doesn't, because, like, as we demonstrated earlier on in the show, the stupid thing is listening to everything that I say all the time. And why do we carry around these surveillance devices in our pockets,
Yeah, I've heard somebody, like, you're worried about privacy? Are you kidding me?
Right.
If you have a smartphone, you're obviously not worried about privacy.
Yeah, get a flip phone. I've thought about it. I've seriously thought about it, but the thing is, it's so convenient to have. Oh my goodness. Hey.
And they know it. Yeah, you're blocking the screen here. Watch out, cat. Tag on it.
Just don't mess with the microphone. All right, so I guess the bottom line is we have a problem with surveillance, and Snowden exposed some of it, but I can't believe that government has really reformed and changed their tune. I think that there's probably still a lot of this stuff going on that we still don't know about, and we need some other Snowden to come out and expose what's going on now, because it's probably 10 times worse than it was then.
Yes, well, I'm sure all of because now, except they're not really spying. We're just giving it to them.
That's true.
Right? So, in the sense that Google or you have agreed, right?
And all these, 75-page terms of use things that you agree to when you sign up for some service that nobody's read. That's an actual area that I would like to see some court cases on. Like, can you really enforce a terms and conditions document, 75 pages long, that you just clicked on when you bought a shovel from the local store?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that really enforceable?
I don't think so.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But I'm afraid it is, because you clicked that button and said you agree to the terms and conditions. But that you're right. We're in a situation now where we are voluntarily disclosing, not only to the government, but to Google, to Apple, to everybody else.
Right. Well, because every time it says, based on your browsing history, we think that you might
means they have your browsing history.
I need a new shovel. And I'm like, you're right. And obviously you've been reading my email when I was complaining to Crowhill about my broken shovel. But thank you for suggesting that. And it's on sale for 45% off? I'm in.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great service? All right. Well, so anyway. I don't like surveillance, but I still carry the surveillance device in my pocket.
Yeah.
So there we have it.
One nation under surveillance.
One nation under surveillance.
Right.
All right. What do you got for me?
I have the meme of the week. Okay. I don't have a man of the week.
All right.
And so it's 9 boxes.
Okay.
So like the Hollywood squares.
Yeah.
And each of them has a photo in it. I'll describe the photo, and you tell me what the caption is underneath of it.
Okay.
I would like to do. So, top left corner, we have Elizabeth Warren.
She's a Native American.
Yes. Right after her is a grotesquely obese woman. Look at the neck on that creature.
Yeah. Health.
Yes. And here we have Michelle Obama.
She's oppressed.
And Joe Biden.
He's competent.
And in the middle of the Hollywood Square money is George Floyd.
George Floyd, he's a hero, of course.
Yes, we have over here Bill Gates.
He's a scientist.
We have Greta Van Thunberg.
Not the Greta Thunberg, no Van, I don't think.
Okay.
She's an expert.
Oh, she's an expert. Yeah. Here we have a burning building.
Yeah, the mostly peaceful protests. Yes.
And we have Rachel Levine.
Ah, she's a woman, of course.
Yes. She is not just a woman, she's a 4-star admiral. And can I spend a minute on what it takes to become a 4-star admiral?
Yeah, like Halsey was probably a 4-star admiral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're in charge of the entire Pacific Fleet,
right,
fighting Japan
during a war,
during war, after spending your entire career on ships and putting your life in danger, that you might get 4 stars.
Maybe.
Patton was only 4 stars.
That's right. Yeah. I think we only have a couple of 5 stars, right? There haven't been very many 5 stars.
So let's go back this up a little bit. We've got the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force.
Right.
2 other departments in the category of uniformed services are the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Commissioned Officer Corps,
right,
and the Public Health Services Commissioned Officer Corps.
Right.
In addition to their Navy-like uniforms, these are also headed by bureaucrats designated admirals. So,
why would you call this person?
Why is this person called? Oh, yeah, here you go. Oh, Halsey commanded the fleet. He was Patton was a 3-star general.
3-star.
Until he was later promoted to 4-star. So this is something that is reserved for somebody who has spent really their entire lives in combat
and made a serious contribution to a serious effort. Patton was no slouch. I mean, he's a bit of a nut, but he did. He
was standing in the face of danger. But unlike Navy admirals, Levine did not become an admiral after decades of service, including overseas deployments, time away from family, hazards that accompany military service.
All she did was have her penis chopped off, probably.
It was never an ensign, lieutenant, commander, captain, or even vice admiral.
Wow.
Just went straight to 4-star admiral.
Straight to 4-star admiral from what?
From who knows what.
Right.
From just a public servant somewhere.
Yeah. She was a community organizer.
She was a health department. Yeah. Yes, she was working in the health department in Philadelphia or something. I'm there. I'm with my dad, and he's up there in age, and he doesn't want to watch Friends or anything too fancy.
Yeah.
So we put on the oldies station.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm watching MASH.
Okay. Yeah.
So what is going on in MASH? Corporal Klinger is doing what?
Yeah. He's pretending to be a woman so he can get out of service because he's crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
is there any way that Mr. Levine would have been elevated to this position if he did not wear a dress as a man to work?
No.
There's no way.
No. It's a complete reversal.
So what kind of upside down world is this that the person actually gets elevated?
Yeah.
We were just talking about Mr. Snowden. How about Mr. Manning?
Right.
Should be in Leavenworth for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But instead, the armed services paid for a sex change.
Yeah.
And he was, exonerated.
Yeah.
Would that have happened if he was not wearing a dress?
No.
Still had a penis?
So a lot of times people talk about male privilege, which is a lie. There isn't a whole lot of male privilege, but there is trans privilege. There is definitely trans privilege, and here
Corporal
we have
Klinger and Rachel Levine.
two opposite sides of the equation.
I mean, it just shows how in one generation how we have gone a completely inside out.
And it was funny. It was funny back in the day when we were watching
it was
MASH.
so good.
Yeah.
It's like, exactly. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how you demonstrate that you're nuts when you show up to
wearing a tutu or whatever.
Yes. With a rifle on your arm.
And a boa around your neck and everything. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're like, Klinger, we're not buying it. In this case, we say, not only do we buy it,
but you're a 4-star admiral.
4-star admiral. So I asked our friend who actually served in the Navy, I said, so exactly what fleet was that Admiral Levine? and he shot back. He said, wait, what fleet did he command? He says, the fleet of misfit toys.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. Yeah, that's exactly where he belongs. 4-star admiral.
Wow.
So one last remark on Mr. Levine.
Yeah.
So then at Bastille Day,
okay,
the French host a big party at the
right,
at the embassy in Washington.
Right.
And who did we send?
Yeah,
Sam Britton,
the luggage stealer.
Yes, that creep.
Yep.
And this
freak. I know. It's disgusting. This is the face we present to the world, and that's why nobody takes us seriously.
I know. This is supposed to be the part of the show where I bring a little levity into it. Well, I guess the Misfit Toys part.
It's funny. Yes.
Klinger is funny. Misfit Toys is funny. The reality of the whole thing.
It's funny in a sad way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so there we are.
All right.
And of course, Google's been listening to everything we say. It'll show up in our newsfeed tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.